Welcome to eMage4 training video number 8, contacts. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you record time spent with a client, what you did with the client, how long it took, as well as any notes or additional information that you need to record for that contact. So I'm going to start out of a client's file. So I'm already in my client's file. I'm going to use this contacts tab here, this one that's in color. If I use this contacts tab up here at the top, this gray one, all that's going to do is it's going to take me out of the client file. So if I want to add the contact for this specific client that I'm already in, then I'm going to use this contacts tab here. When you come into the contacts section, you'll see there's a gray search area at the top. So if I wanted to add in a new one, I wouldn't start entering in my information in here. This is just to search for existing contacts. I can also see a list of contacts down here at the bottom that have been entered for this client. But if I want to add in a new one, I'm going to look for that green circle with the plus sign. So this is going to open up a blank client contact details sheet. So these are all of the fields that I can and some that I have to fill in order to record my time spent with the client. So we'll start up here at the top. So we have the date, which will default to right now. However, if you're filling this out for earlier in the day or a different date, you can change that. The program dropdown, so you do have to say which program this contact was done under. The worker will default to yourself, but again, if you're filling this out for someone else, you can change that from the dropdown. You can also add in additional workers. So if myself and Kirsten both were involved in this meeting with the client, then I would want to list her as a worker as well. So this list is going to be everybody that was involved in the meeting. Scrolling down, we have locations, so whether you want to fill out where the meeting happened. We have attachments, so this can be useful if, let's say, the client drew a picture or signed a document during your meeting. You can upload it directly with this contact. What that's going to do is it's going to allow you to find that attachment within this contact, but also in the main attachment section. So keep that in mind that when you upload something into a record, it's going to save with that record, but also save in the main attachment section. So we talked about that in a previous training video about the attachment section, but within a contact, you can also add in an attachment. Authentication, we'll talk about that in just a second. Client, because we started out of our client file using this contacts tab, we have a client listed here. We can also add in additional clients. We're going to talk about group contacts in just a second, but if there was more than one client, I could use add a client to add more. If the client was present, then I don't have to change anything here, but maybe the client was absent and I was just doing documentation about them. I can change them to absent. Scrolling down, so format, I'm just going to leave as individual for now. Method, I do have to fill out how we met with the client, so whether that was face-to-face, over the phone, email. Anonymous clients, now you'll notice that's also mandatory. It is a bolded field, but it defaults to 0. So unless the client brought a friend or there was another type of anonymous client in your meeting, you don't have to do anything with this field. But if the client did bring a friend who was not a named person at your agency, but you did provide service, you could record one anonymous client. Alternatively, when we talk about group contacts in just a second, you could record 10 anonymous clients if you ran a group in the community with anonymous clients. You can use this field to record that time as well. And then we have significant participants and regular participants. So who else was in the meeting? So maybe this client's parent was there. I could check that off, as well as the police were there. I can check any of these additional participants off as well. And then we get down to the activity list. So what did you do with the client and how long did it take? So I'm going to say that for this example, we did a case conference and it took 1 hour and 15 minutes. You can also add in additional activities. So maybe we also did some education for 25 minutes. I can select that as well. It's going to total the duration of the meeting down here. So I'll be able to see how long the meeting was in total, broken down by each activity. And then scrolling down, we have our case note. So this is where you would write any case notes that you have about the meeting. And this is also a full text editor, so I can underline, bold, there's bullets, numbering. There is also spell check, so as long as it's enabled with your browser, which it almost always is, if you happen to misspell a word, it'll underline it in red for you. There is also a button for paste from Word. So if you were working outside of the office and maybe you didn't have an internet connection and you've taken your notes in Microsoft Word, you can come in here once you're back in the office and back in EMHware, and you can enter in your note using that paste from Word button there. So once you're done, or at any time when you're filling this out, you can always click on the Save button. So what the Save button is going to do is it's just going to save your work to the system, and you'll still be able to make changes. So you can see it's telling me the changes have been saved, but I can still make changes. So I can still go down and finish my note if I'm not done, or make any changes to any part of this record. You'll also notice once you save that you get some other options up here at the top. So you may or may not see all these depending on your permissions, but the most important one being here, the Authenticate button. So when you're done, you always want to lock your work in EMHware. So this is how you want to put your electronic signature on the record to say that, yes, this is what I did with the client, this is how long it took, this is my notes about my meeting, any of that information. So you're going to want to go ahead and click on Authenticate when you're done. So if you're done this record, I'm going to click Authenticate. It's going to ask me for a password. This is the same password that you use to log into the system, so you don't have to remember multiple passwords. It's the same one. And then I'm going to click Authenticate and Save. What that's going to do is it's going to tell me right up here in the top corner, the changes have been saved, record locked by signature. So you'll notice now in the authentication field, we have the worker's name as well as the date and the time that this was locked. And you can also see that no changes can be made. So I can't make any changes to this record, and nobody else can make any changes either. If you made a mistake, so if you put it under the wrong client file, or you put the wrong date or checked off the wrong participants, and you need to make a change to the record, you will need to go and get that record unlocked by someone at your agency with admin privileges. So whether that's a manager or whoever it is at your agency that can unlock records, they're going to have to go in here, click unlock. What that's going to show then in the log records is that that it was unlocked by the manager, and then you can then go in and make your changes, and then it's going to show the changes were made, and then it was re-authenticated. So if you do make a mistake and you need to have something changed, you do have to get that unlocked in order to make changes to a record. So I'm going to talk quickly now about group contacts, as well as what we call workload contacts in EMHware. So in order to do a group contact, I'm not going to start out of my client file. I'm going to start out of this top gray contacts tab. And then I'm going to click on New Client Contact. And then it's basically the same screen that we saw when we were in the client file, except now there's no client listed yet. I will enter in a client in just a second. So we can go through the same fields. We have the date that the meeting happened, as well as the program. We can pick any program that we need to. I'm just going to leave it as mental health support for now. Workers, so again, the same thing goes. If there was more than one person involved in the meeting, you would want to enter them all in here. Location, attachments, authentication, and then we get down to clients. So I can add in as many clients as I need to. I can click add a client and search for my clients. Group format, obviously we want to change the format to be group. Now, if your agency, let's say you run the same group every week with the same 10 clients, your admins can actually set it up so that when that group name is chosen, it would automatically populate those 10 or whatever number of clients that are in that group. So that can be something that's set up within administration. So then we're just going to pick method, follow the same thing as we did before. The anonymous clients, so let's say it was these 2 clients, but it was also 10 anonymous clients. I can mark that as well. And then I can check off any other participants that were there, as well as pick my, let's just say we did living arrangement with these clients for 1 hour. I still have to pick my activity and my duration. And then I can write my notes. So this is important for group contacts. So this note down here is the group case note. So any clients that are listed here are going to get this case note down here. So they're all going to get this case note. But up here underneath of the clients' names, I can actually write individual case notes. So if there's something specific I need to record about this client or this client, I can click on individual case note. I can write about that client, and then what's going to happen when I save is they're going to get their individual case note, and they're also going to get their group case note. So just keep that in mind, that you wouldn't want to put any client specific information down here in the bottom in the group case note. You're going to want to keep that in the individual case notes up here. And then of course you're just going to follow the same steps where you save and authenticate that contact. The next thing I want to show you in contacts is how to record non-client related work. So in EMH, we call these workloads. So again, we're not going to start out of a client file because it's non-client related. We're going to start from this contacts tab up here at the top. And directly beside new client contact, you'll see there's a button for new workload. So what you're going to see here is you're not going to have an option to pick a client because it's non-client related. So it is things more like education or the CMH for training, things like that that are not attached to a client. So we still have a date field, we have a program, workers. Again, if it was a staff meeting that you're recording, you can record it under one contact and add in all the workers that were there. Attachments, authentication, and then activity list. And keep in mind that this activity list is going to be different than the one that you see in the client file because it is for non-client related work. But the same idea where you pick your activity and your duration, and then any comments about the workload. And then you can follow the same steps where you can save, and then you can also just skip right to authenticate in order to record that time. So depending on your agency, they may or may not want you to be recording workloads, but if you do need to record them in EMH, you can do so using the new workload button.